Bucks at Grizzlies, 8 o'clock in Memphis. Out of conference basketball on this Thursday. A lot going on in this game. Both teams not performing well in recent history. Memphis laying a complete egg last night to Brooklyn. Milwaukee seemingly laying eggs all year. You want to buy low on both teams. We got Luke, the prop master, in the house. He's honed in on first-year Milwaukee Buck Gary Trent Jr., buy low in his market, taking points over 11.5 tonight.
Yeah, I love it. I think the books actually show this as a quality spot for the over because Trent is averaging just a flat 10 points per game this season through 4 games. Nothing special. He's getting up only about 7 shot attempts per game, but he has to play a bigger role. That's why they brought him in the offseason. He's an elite shooter. He shoots 39% from three with 6+ attempts per game throughout his entire career, 14 to 18 points per game his last 5 seasons in Toronto. And without Chris Middleton, he's gotta be a bigger part of the team. If he's not, heck, Giannis might be out of town, as we heard this morning. There's some rumors swirling. I think Trent steps up here in a big spot. As people might look at his stats and take the under. The books put his over at 1.5 points more than he's averaging. I think that says something. He should, according to my analytics, put up about 15 tonight. So let's take it and let's hit the over, which I think trends with what you guys were looking at overnight.
Yeah, without question. Our top play here, and this is going to be an interesting conversation because we're seeing significant market steam on the game overnight. Really started about 2 a.m. all the way through this show, but we have the over at 224.5. It is now 232.5, and we were saying off the air, this is very much like college basketball steam. You don't see steam like this in the NBA very often, and I think it really is symptomatic to a bunch of moving parts in the game. But Coach is on it. I'll throw it to Coach for a few comments, and then I will elaborate further.
Yep, thank you. I like the over. I loved it at 224.5 where it was at last night for a couple of reasons. And, I think you guys have hit on some of them. The Bucks don't play great defense right now. What is that? I don't know. Is it Middleton not in the lineup? Maybe it's Doc Rivers. Maybe it's a combination of all that. But they're giving up a ton of points. Memphis, I know they're on a back-to-back, but they play at a frenetic pace. So I happen to like the over, but then all of a sudden, it looks like sharps are pounding that thing like a virgin on prom night, right? And now all of a sudden it's 232, so I don't know if I like 232.5, but, I did like it at 224.
Yeah. And, that's another snapshot to something we like to discuss more so off the record, but we'll put it on here. Sports betting is 24/7. You want to get the best market movement and the best line. But just jumping off of that, the reason why I love this over, you got to go back over the last 2 years with these teams because the rosters have been so vastly different. Of course, last year, Ja Morant didn't play a lot of basketball, off the court issues, and then an injury. But those games last year did have very low totals, 113, 110, and 111, 101. But go back to the previous season. The last time Ja Morant was involved against Giannis and these boys, 2 overs with emphasis, 142 to 101 in Memphis, 137 to 114 in Milwaukee. And key point in terms of the lines, the unders last year, 222.5 line, 218.5. The overs the previous year, 226.5, 230.5. So books are reverting back to the expectancy of the Ja Morant matchups from 2 years ago. And I think you find a nice little mini buy low on these teams. As Coach said, Milwaukee's not playing defense, and Memphis is really running at a high pace and not defending themselves. But Milwaukee actually comes in here 0-2 versus the over last 2, just not scoring the ball themselves. Really laid a complete egg at Brooklyn in terms of their team total, and then only scored 108 in Boston. So you get a great buy low on Milwaukee scoring the ball, and you get a nice buy low on Memphis, who only scored 106 points last night against Brooklyn. So this is the second night of a back-to-back for Memphis. The only other time they had a back-to-back this year, night 1, They scored 108 points, very similar to last night's output. And then they came back in the second one against Orlando, covered the spread, won outright, 124 to 111 against Orlando, and it went over. The market steam is immense. You don't see it very often. It's incredibly sharp steam. We love the over tonight. And of course, Luke on Gary Trent, points over 11.5. 2 plays in this game. Let's cash these tickets.